to show you how to make this skirt. So it has an elasticated waist and 3 pleats on each side, a pocket and the same at the back. It's so pretty. And here it is straight out of the pack. What you have is your elastic, and this is your facing for the hem of the skirt, your instructions, 2 sets of pockets, and then 2 pieces, the front and the back. They are exactly the same, so don't worry about trying to figure out which one is which. Right, let's get started. We're looking at number 1, and what we're going to do, you've got 4 pocket pieces. Obviously you've got your pair there, one for the left, one for the right. Then take your skirt piece. The top of your skirt is the one with tons of snips at the top. Here we go, can you see those? That is where all the pleats are going to go, and there's the chalk marks which show you where you're going to stitch down to. So that's the top edge, and then the side edge obviously is here, and your pockets match up to these 2 notches here. So obviously right sides together, you've got your notches in the pocket. That one matches up with that one there, and then this one should match up here. So pin all 4 pockets onto all 4 side seams. I'm just going to put a couple of pins in just where the notches are. Here we are at the sewing machine. The seam allowance on this side seam is 1 centimetre. So line the edge of your fabric up with your 1 centimetre mark, which is there, and then set your stitch length to 2.5 on your straight stitch. And we're going to stitch all the way along this pocket section to the other end of the pocket. And while I'm doing this, I'm just going to tell you why this is called the utility skirt. The reason is because the first one I ever made was using some fabric that my mum had, really old piece of fabric, that was used to make those lab coats. Came out really well. It's proper sort of workwear fabric. And the name just stuck. I'm just coming up to the other end of the pocket. When you've done your straight stitch, go straight back to the beginning, set your stitch to zigzag, and zigzags just right on the edge, only where you've done the straight stitch, right to the end. And when we finish this, there's 3 more pockets to do in the exact same way. Now press all the pockets to the outer edge, including the seam allowance, so make sure that's also going the same direction. With right sides together, pin seams together and stitch. Lay them right sides together with all the notches and the pockets matching up. This is my side seam then. Now we're going to just sew the whole thing up with a pocket. Now for your seam allowance, make it 1.3. So on the line of your machine where it says 1 centimetre, just have it go over by about 3 millimetres. You'll see why when we get to the pocket. So put your machine back on straight stitch, and we're going to just start stitching all the way up to where we start the pocket. Right, so we're coming up to the pocket here, and you'll see why then here. What we want to do is have our stitching come just on the inside of the stitch that you did for the pocket here. And come up just as far as you need to have a 1.5 seam allowance as you're going around the pocket. So make sure the needle's down before you lift the foot up, then turn, and rather than just go straight down like that, I always sort of go across first. Makes it more comfy on your hand as it's going in and out of your pocket. So about 1 centimetre, and then you can start to curve down and round the pocket. We're just coming round now to the top of the pocket, which is a bit easier than the bottom. So as you're coming up to your seam, just check that the seam allowance is still facing in the direction that we pressed it, and ease that under the foot, and keep sewing until you're about 2 or 3 millimeters past the stitch you just did. The reason is so that when you've got your skirt turned the right side out, you just don't see that seam, it's just tucked away inside the pocket. And then carry on all the way up to what will be the waistband. And then back stitch there. Now go all the way back down to where you started. Set your machine to zigzag and go around the edge of the raw edge of the fabric all the way round until you get back to the top. Step 3, take your 2 facing pieces and sew up the short edges with the same seam allowances that you did on your side seam of your skirt, because this needs to fit perfectly. Press open the seams just so that there's less bulk when we come to sew this on. We're now going to just press under 1 centimetre all the way around just one of the edges. Grab your skirt with the right side out, and you're going to wrap this band, the facing band, around the bottom edge of the skirt. Just decide which is your back and front at this point. Doesn't matter, they're both the same. Match up your side seams. So 2 pins there, and then all of the rest of this edge should fit. So pop in a pin every 20 centimetres or so, all the way around. Now simply stitch your facing onto the edge of your skirt with a 1 centimetre seam allowance and a straight stitch all the way around. Make sure your seams stay the direction they need to be going as you press them. We're now on number 5 in your bullet points, by the way. So have the seam going facing down. Make sure you don't sort of undo your work there with the pressing of that other edge. And you're just going to press this edge down. Now understitch it. So I've got my hem going facing that way. I'm going to do a row of stitches about 3 millimeters on the facing side from this seam all the way around there. Just helps when we fold this back inside the skirt, it just helps for it to sit nice and flat. So that's as close as we're stitching. turn and press the facing to where it's going to end up being in the end. Whilst I'm pressing it, I'm just going to pin it into position as well. So this is where that edge comes in that we pressed at the beginning of this process. Try and remember to put them in the same direction as you're going to sew. And by the way, we could have just done a simple double fold hem here, which would work as well. But it's just nice, isn't it, to have a bit of a flash of colour on your hem, and makes it gives a bit more body around the bottom of the skirt. Right, the last part of the process of stitching the hem is to top stitch the hem facing down. So just a straight stitch right on the edge. Make sure it is right on the edge so that this doesn't end up flapping over as you're wearing it. Just look at that, isn't it gorgeous? I love it. We coined the phrase cutility, and this really sums it up, because it's kind of a utility, versatile piece of clothing with a cute twist, hence the cutility. So there we go, just had to tell you that. So it's time to do the pleats, which is number 6 on your bullet points. So you need your skirt to be wrong side out. I've actually already stitched some, so this is what you're actually heading for. You're going to have stitched down pleats like that. So the bottom of the pleat is marked by you'll either have chalk marks or you'll have little drill holes, and then the top of the pleat is marked out by these notches here. There will be 3 pleats. This is one, and then the small gap is the gap between the pleats. This is the other pleat, then a gap, and this is the third one. Okay, so what you're going to do is, we'll start this side. You're going to take the first 2 with the biggest gap and match the snips together like that. Now the pleats are totally, what's the word? On the grain, that's the word. So if you're using this corduroy, that's quite helpful because it has the stripes in. So put a pin in exactly where the notches are at the top of the waistband area. This is 2 centimetres, and it needs to be 2 centimetres all the way down to the drill hole or the chalk mark. So put your pin through one of the chalk marks, find it on the other side, there it is, and then put your pin across, and that marks where you finish your stitching. Right, there's another one here, so again, match the snips and get a pin in there, then get another pin and poke it through the drill hole that is directly beneath that notch, so it's there, and then find it on the other side and poke your pin through it like this. Kind of try and straighten it out so it feels like it's on the grain, and then push it through there. Last one, matching those notches. Helps to sort of pull the skirt down right from the hem, the fold. Then poke through the chalk mark or the drill hole, find it on the other side. And then that's it. So that's your 3 pleats pinned. We're going to stitch those up. So have your pleats like this. I'm going to start with this one, and you're going to stitch it folded. So where the pin went in here is where your stitch is. Okay, so not that hole, but this hole here. Do you remember pushing it through the fabric? So I'm going to get my needle in position, and I'm going to put my needle down where the pin is going through. It should be 2 centimeters. So if you've got a marker on your machine which shows a 2 centimeter line, that should be lined up with that. So my needle's in, so that's not going to move around. I'm going to take my pin out, foot down. Now, because that's the bottom of the pleat, we definitely need to back stitch there. So go forwards 3 or 4 stitches and go back to where you started. This pin is kind of showing us where that is, and then carry on all the way up, keeping this on 2 centimeter line, and then that should lead you straight up to this one in the notches. There they are, and you're just going to carry on all the way up to the notches and then back stitch. Then take your next pleat, get this one out of the way, fold that, so you're on the fold again, place your edge on the 2 centimeters, get your needle down, and then you can take the pin out at this point before you put the foot down, and then again make sure you back stitch. And then again, that should lead you straight up to your 2 centimeter notches on the waistband edge. Last one now. So take your third one. There it is. Get these out of the way. Keep the fold and make sure it does sort of look like it's on the grain. Needle in position. Okay, there we are. So it should look like this, and like that on the outside. Press the top, the actual stitch parts of your pleat to the centre of the skirt. To keep the pleats, after you press them, in the right position while you're making the casing with the waistband, we're just going to stay stitch them down in the right direction. And I'm going to stay stitch just under 1 centimetre from that top edge. Stay stitch, you don't need to back stitch. It's just literally a row of stitches to make it stay. So go around the whole skirt, those 4 areas. Step number 7. It's the last bit. We're going to make the casing for the elastic. Gauge how much feels comfortable, where you want the elastic to sit around your waist, and give yourself an extra 2 centimetres on each end. So, because when we stitch it up, we're going to overlap it by 2 centimetres like that inside the casing. Pressing under just 1 centimetre all around the top, first of all. Now press under again, so it's like a double fold, and this time it needs to be just over 3 centimetres. The elastic that you've got is 3 centimetres, and you're going to sew this right on the edge here, So you just need to leave just enough room to slide the elastic in through the casing. It needs to be quite exact. Right, now having pinned my casing in position, I'm going to keep my elastic on my lap here whilst I'm sewing, just so I can just keep a gauge that I've got it in the right place. So that's where it's going to go, and I'm going to stitch on the edge here. This is the back, this is the front, so my hole, I'm going to start sewing here, and the hole to insert the elastic will be just there, so somewhere around the back of the skirt. So make sure you back stitch when you start sewing, because that place is going to take a bit of tugging when you put the elastic in. You don't want the stitching to come loose. Keep checking that's going to fit through. I'm just coming up to where I started here, and there it is here. I'm going to leave enough space to be able to insert the elastic comfortably. So I'm going to stop there and back stitch. Find the hole and find something that you can thread the elastic through. So you can either use a safety pin, which of course everybody will have, but you can also get these things. They're called bodkins, and this one is better for elastic like this, which is kind of wide. So start putting your elastic through. Don't worry if it twists on its way around. You can adjust it as you go. Once you get started, you can get the end and just pin it, just in case you've pulled all the elastic through and you don't want this to disappear. So keep going all the way round until you come back to the other side. So I'm out the other side, here we are, and there's the end that I pinned. You can just go round the waistband, make sure it hasn't twisted on its way round. Okay, so now we're going to take that pin out, take this off for your safety pin. Just pull out enough that you can just overlap, pin it together. You're going to sew a square around the overlapping area. There we go. Now you need to lose this into the waistband, so just pull the elastic and it starts to disappear. Start sewing about, I don't know, about a centimetre over what you've already done. Bang on where you've already stitched. You don't want to stitch the elastic down, so be careful to stitch right on the edge and make sure that you've got this coming right over. I'm already thinking, what colour tights am I going to wear with this? Which top shall I wear with this? Which jacket would it go with? So exciting. It's finished.